All right. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. No matter where you are, what you're doing, however you stumbled upon this, I hope it teaches you something. I hope you give back something. And overall, I hope you are in a positive state of mind. If you're watching this, there's a good chance you know that Twitter Spaces is going to have a town hall type deal with RFK Jr., which is fantastic. And I'll be tuning into that, and I might be live streaming it just because it's a pretty cool event. Let's see how it goes down compared to the Ron DeSantis launch that crashed the Twitter servers. But before we get into that, and I set up cameras for that, I wanted to speak a little bit about a YouTube video that I ran into from Kim Iverson, whom I respect. Kim is a great journalist. She spent some time at The Hill, and she was censored. And upon being censored, she decided to leave. And great moral character displayed there. Great journalism instincts. However, in this interview with a journalist named Brad Palumbo, that journalist instinct did not kick in because she didn't follow up and ask exactly what he was talking about. But you know what? I took the time to find out what he was talking about and if there was any merit to it. And I'm not going to just speak about what he was talking about. Let's take a listen and see if it makes sense to you what this man is talking about. Now, just to set the scene, Mr. Palumbo is a journalist who writes for several articles, one of them being the Daily Beast. And there's an article that caught my attention. It said, RFK Jr.'rs a wannabe authoritarian. Pretty strong words. Let's listen to why Mr. Palumbo made this assertion.
You think he's a censor monger. So what is your beat? What do you like about him first before you go into what you don't like about him?
Well, like many people from, across the independent political thinking spectrum, I was initially, attracted to RFK Jr. as a candidate because I heard him railing against COVID lockdowns, against vaccine mandates, against censorship, speaking out. And, obviously, underlying his ideology is he's a progressive. He believes in the Green New Deal. He believes in a lot of policies I don't share. And so he was probably always a non-starter for me for those reasons, but I at least was very attracted to his message and wanted to learn more about him. Because of these things I was hearing him say that are different, opposing lockdowns, opposing censorship, and all of that. But then when I looked more into his past, I was kind of disturbed by what I found, because I'm a First Amendment absolutist. Free speech is increasingly my number one issue, and he unfortunately has a record of advocating in his history as an environmental activist to censor people. He has said that
RFK Jr., as an environmentalist, works to censor people? My man, I admire your libertarian moxie. But let's give a pause. Where do you go with this?
That the Koch brothers should be in jail for their quote-unquote climate denial. He said CEOs, and he wishes there were a law he could punish politicians who don't support his climate policies under. He's listed ideological nonprofits that he thinks the federal government should basically put out of business because he disagrees with the positions they've taken on climate change.
So he thinks the Koch brothers should go to jail. We're going to talk about them. I'd love to see how you feel about the Koch brothers. Both of you, Kim and Brad. How do you feel about the Koch brothers? Should they be in jail? What do you think? Maybe if you watch the rest of my video, you'll have a more informed opinion. And if Kim, Brad, subscribe to my channel because I'll be putting more content like this out there, because if you're missing information, maybe the crowd can give it to you. He wishes, I'm sorry, he wishes that there was a law that held CEOs criminally liable for things. That's not censoring, that's wishing there was accountability for criminal CEOs. And lastly, taking aim at political groups, nonprofit groups that are coordinating attacks on our civil liberties, on our environment, it's not censoring. If anything, censoring is when those organizations collude, gather enough money to spread out the message that they want to say so that independent voices can't rise to the top. That's censorship. Now, let's bright-eyed Brad.
And I'm not somebody who thinks climate change is all a Chinese hoax or a denier or anything, but obviously it's an issue of.
I would love to speak to people who think that climate change is a Chinese hoax and what that would look like. But what does that look like? A Chinese hoax? Like they're over there in Beijing with a big whiteboard saying, and now, I don't have a good accent for that, but they're like planning up hurricanes and tornadoes for Kansas. What is that?
Of tremendous complexity where people of good faith can have widely different views about what the right policy approaches are.
I'm going to try to fast forward this. Hopefully Kim asks him a question, but I don't think so. But she does get into the video, which I wanted to show.
Daily Beast. So they do. They let people who are right of center. Okay, that's interesting to know. But in here you do catalog a lot of the things that he has said. Now, we actually have a clip of RFK Jr. saying one of these things that you mentioned in your piece here, so let's go ahead and play that clip.
Do I think they should be in jail? I think they should be enjoying 3 hots and a cot on The Hague with all the other war criminals who are there.
What about politicians, people who deny, who express skepticism?
I think they're selling out the public trust. And, I think those guys who are doing the Koch brothers bidding and who are against all the evidence of the rational mind are saying that global warming doesn't exist, that they're contemptible human beings, and that, I wish that there were a law you could punish them under.
Boom. Yeah. So, Brad, I don't know if you were around in 2012 or before 2012 and when the climate argument was really heating up. There was a lot of people just denying it outright that the climate was not changing and that the humans had nothing to do with it. These big oil companies had a lot of swagger, and they organized and they influenced, and in my opinion it was criminal.
I don't think there's a law that you can punish those politicians under, but I think the Koch brothers should be prosecuted for reckless endangerment. Absolutely. That's a criminal offense, and they ought to be serving time for it.
All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So obviously he was a bit younger then. That was from almost 10 years ago, 2014. And in fact, I think most of the clips that you pointed to in your piece were from around that same time, 2014. Do you think that there's any room for change in that 10 years? I mean, I think I've said things in the last 10 years that I definitely, that were a bit authoritarian at times. Like, once in a while, it all, it comes out until we have to check ourselves and say, wait
a second. This libertarian party going on over here, acting like big corporations can say whatever they want in an organized fashion with big media behind them and not be held accountable. This is two people that are rallying against COVID lockdowns and mandates, which came not from the governments but from those corporations that meet over at the World Economic Forum and Davos and Bilderberg and the Trilateral Commission and all of those other groups of elites that meet and start talking about plans of how they think the world should be. And some of those plans, two of those plans, were the mandates and the vaccines, which have turned out to be quite disastrous. And these same corporations are in the same suit of the Koch brothers, who, and enough, Kim. And you see, I ranted because you angered me. You had the choice there. Say, oh, do I ask them, well, why would the Koch brothers be held criminally liable? Or do I throw them a softball and say, hey, we all say dumb things. Ha! I've even said some authoritarian things. That makes me feel like you felt like RFK Jr. was being authoritarian by saying the Koch brothers should be in jail. So, Kim, I hope you watch this video because let's get right into it. So, the Koch brothers. Man. So, you can look this up on the internet. Go to ChatGPT, will tell you what's up. I'm going to get into just one of these issues, okay? But if you watch the Koch brothers exposed or Citizen Koch, it's pretty well documented, and the fact that they're not in jail tells you a little bit about how our corporatism has led to a plutocracy that's eating up our democracy. All right, so I'm gonna look at one that I think out of this list of allegations that I wanted to really focus in on is the cancer in a small town in Arkansas. And looking into it, man, so Georgia Pacific, which is owned by the Koch brothers, had a plant on a paper mill in the small town in Arkansas, and a lot of people by the river in that town were getting cancer, and it's well documented. You can watch the videos and see. Now that's hard to prove, but just the odds of that many people getting cancer, where the Georgia Pacific paper mill was putting chemicals into the water, is suspect, right? And people took note, and enough people took note that there's a whistleblower, and the whistleblower says, listen, we're putting chemicals into this water. I don't want this company to go away because it provides so many jobs to this community, but I think we could clean up the factory and make it right for the workers and do what's right for America. What did the Koch brothers do? Easy. They closed up shop. And they also made a deal with the government, say, hey, we're going to clean all this up and keep on watching. But, hey, we did not do it. We cannot be held liable for it. But you know what? We'll pay $5.1 million to clean up the site where we're at. Kim, Brad, shouldn't the conversation pointed in or gone into that direction of oligarchs and plutocrats in this country going to lengths to take advantage of the 99%? And if it was just this cancer issue or Keystone Pipeline, but even Koch brothers is a good example of a conglomerate that eats up other businesses and for profit. So they took all these asbestos lawsuits that came in with Georgia Pacific, and they hired and they paid $6 million to consultants to publish experiments that would prove scientifically that they were not liable for this. That's not criminal. And then to make it even better, what they do is using some special thing called the Texas two-step, They just got $2.5 billion in dividends from that asbestos liability. If this isn't criminal, then we need to have a serious conversation about what criminality is. This is corruption. This is what RFK Jr. is fighting against. And for you guys to call him authoritarian because he wants to take these types of criminals off the streets and into jail rather than having them just pay a couple of million here and a couple of million there to clean up their mess but never take accountability, never take responsibility. That's not how I raise my children. Yet this is how we're supposed to behave in society. This is how we're supposed to become prosperous. I got a bone to pick with you libertarians about that. I'm all about a free society. I'm all about free speech, but there comes responsibility and accountability. And our social norms need to be built in a way that we have boundaries that make those criminals responsible, liable. So, Brad, you know, with age comes wisdom, my man. So hopefully, as you continue your journey through life, you'll understand that we need a social safety net. How that's going to look, we're finding out, but this ain't the wild, wild west. That social safety net has saved millions and millions of people. And I wouldn't take advice from this man on RFK Jr. if he thinks that trying to hold the Koch brothers accountable and put them in jail for the crimes that they've committed is censorship. Something going on in this country. It's been going on for decades, and it's almost over. This is end stage capitalism. We are the 99%. And it's not even the 1%. Hell, the 1% are fine. It's that 0.1% that are driving an agenda to divide us. And like I said, I have respect for Kim Iverson, but she fumbled on that interview because there could have been a good conversation had about what is criminality in a corrupt state. But that's what happens. That's my rant. Thank you for listening. The Koch brothers are pretty disgusting, and anybody who thinks that trying to put them in jail is censored, or saying that you want to put them in jail is censorship, I would probably take a second look at who they are and who's paying them to do stuff, because, or maybe they're just uninformed and ignorant, and I'm hoping that's the case. I hope Brad's just an ignorant fool. Don't miss this Twitter space if you just are picking this up today, because it's happening in just a couple hours. 1 p.m. It's 12 now, so it's in an hour. And so jump on this, all right? It's America 2023, right? With that said, please click on the link, subscribe to my channel, volunteer for Kennedy. Let's have serious conversations about serious issues. And hey, have a great day. Bye-bye.